The film begins with a homeless person named Hancock, who is living his life on the street and all the time drunk and asleep, and a child comes to him and wakes him up from sleep. And to watch TV, and there will be news about a chase between the police and our gang. Contrary to what we see, it appears that Hancock has superpowers and takes off into the sky to save the situation and catch the gang. But because he is a reckless person and always drunk, he causes the destruction of anything he encounters, traffic lights and police cars. And this costs the state millions in losses. Hancock can reach the gang right with him and shoot him, but the bullets do not affect him, but it hits the glasses in the bottle of wine and breaks them. And this annoys Hancock severely and makes him nervous. He hits his feet on the ground, stops the car, destroys the road, and carries the car with the gang in the air. Then he hangs it in a radio tower, leaves them hanging, and leaves. Because of what he does, he is hated by people, and the police see him destroying the city, and wherever he goes, he fills it with chaos. Although he caught the gang, he cost the state $9 million in losses. And we go to a person named Ray, which is a public relations consultant. And his job is to improve the image of companies in front of society. So he tries to present to investors a marketing plan whose slogan is a red heart, but they refuse when they know that they will sell the products for free as a form of charity. Then Ray walks frustrated and feels like a failure. And there is a traffic jam and the road is crowded from every direction. He discovers that he is standing on the railway tracks and the train is coming towards him. So he tries to move the car, but to no avail. And suddenly Hancock appears at the right time and carries his car, throws it away, and stands with his body in front of the train until it stops. And when the train collides with him, he gets out of it unscathed without any injuries. And the train derails, and everything is destroyed as usual. And people are fanatic about what he did because of his stupidity. And they tell him that he could have removed the car from the front of the train simply, but Hancock coldly replies as if he did nothing. At this time, Ray intervenes and tries to calm the people down and tells them that although what happened is the cause of his disaster, he will be able to return to his home and see his son and his family because of Hancock. And Hancock drives him home because his car broke down. And then he meets Mary, Ray's wife, and his son Aaron. And Mary looks at Hancock as if she knows him. And when he floats him, he sees that she is not comfortable and worried about something. And they eat together. Mary kept looking at HanKook with astonishment. At the end of the day, Ray tells HanKook that he works in public relations and offers him to improve his image in front of people. He refuses and tries with Ray again and gives him his card in case he changes his mind. Ray talks to Mary and defends Hancock and says that he does not need more than that people care about him and appreciate him. Hancock is over their house and hears their words. And because of that, he goes the next day to Ray and tells him that he agrees. They play in the street. And HanKook gets angry and throws him into the sky with all his strength. At this time, Ray comes out of the house and receives HanKook and tells him that he agrees to his offer. And before they enter the house, he receives the child before he falls to the ground. Ray is surprised by what happened and understands that what he did is wrong and makes people hate him more. And they enter the house and show him a set of videos in which he appears destroying the city. And he tells him that despite his attempt to help people, he is destroying the city. And this is what makes people hate him instead of loving and respecting him. And therefore he understands that he must change his behavior. Otherwise he will remain hated. At that time, Mary arrives. And they watch the news and know that Hancock is wanted for arrest on many charges. And we see Mary happy from the news. HanKook tells them that no one can approach him and imprison him. But Ray has another opinion and tells him that he should turn himself in and be imprisoned for a short period, and thus people will love and respect him. And he tells him that people will know his value and will ask him to come back again. You can get out of prison by force whenever you like. At that time, Hancock is convinced of his words and attends a conference in which he says that he is ready to surrender himself and apologize for any bad behavior he did in the previous period. He tells them that during his imprisonment, he will learn to control his anger and quit alcohol. At this time, Harry follows the news on TV and is not satisfied. After that, Hancock enters the prison. And there he meets a large group of criminals who are annoyed with him and block his way, and we know that he was the reason that their intentions entered the prison. And because of that they want revenge on him. But HanKook tries to control his nerves and stay away from them. And when they surround him and find that it's useless to talk to them, he is forced to one of them with force so that he fears the rest of the prisoners. After that, Ray visits him in prison, because he knew what he had done. and that he had to control himself more than that, and that he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. HanKook gets angry and decides to get out of prison immediately, and actually goes to break the door and gets out. But Ray stands in front of him and prevents him and tells him that if he does so, his plan will fail, and convinces him to stay in prison for a longer period, and that he is sure that they will need him as soon as possible, and actually convinces HanKook and begins to adapt to prison life. He plays basketball with prisoners and attends alcohol and anger management sessions, but he refuses to participate with them and is content with listening to them only. Every day, Ray goes to him and teaches him how to act in situations and warns him not to destroy buildings or roads. We see in the news that crimes increased by 30% in the city after HanKook went to prison. A few days later, Ray brings a suit to HanKook so that he can wear it at the time of confronting criminals, so that he appears in the form of a superhero and people love him. One day he is playing basketball, and the ball goes outside the prison wall, so he flies until he catches the ball. And the guards think that he will escape, but he returns again. With time, HanKook begins to be more social, participates in therapy sessions, and his colleagues greet him, and he feels for the first time that people accept him. One day he is asleep and the guard comes to him telling him that the chief of police needs him on a mission, and it will be to confront a gang that robs a bank and is holding a group of hostages. He puts on the suit and goes to the place of the bank and lands on the ground without destroying anything. The chief of police begins to explain the situation to him and tells him that the gang is armed and they are holding 10 hostages and they have bombs on them, and warns him that the situation is dangerous, that there is an injured policewoman, that he must rescue the hostages and arrest the gang without any losses. So HanKook first goes to the policewoman and rescues her and takes her away from the area, and then begins his mission and gets rid of the gang members one by one. And the leader of the gang, whose name is Red, is standing shocked, and his men disappear on him until HanKook gets rid of them. And there is only Reed. HanKook asks him to surrender himself quietly. He refuses to order him to open the safe, otherwise the hostages will explode. HanKook unscrews the lampshade cover, sharpens it with his nails, makes it sharp like a knife, and throws it at him. So his hand, which was holding the bomb remote, was cut off. And then he freed the hostages and went to hand Reed and to the chief of police. Then he takes his wife Mary and HanKook, and they go to dinner in a restaurant to celebrate their success. There HanKook tells them about his superpower and tells them that he does not remember how he gained this power. For 80 years he thinks that he woke up and found himself in a hospital unconscious, and they discover that he never grows old. He tells them that he does not know any information about himself, and his name was chosen by the nurse. Mary is very affected by his words and cries. At the end of the day, HanKook taken Ray to his room because he was drunk. He goes down to say hello to Mary before leaving. He would like to know the secret of her actions with him from the first time she saw him. But when she feels that she will weaken in front of him for some reason, she hits him with all her strength and throws him out of the house. And he discovers that Mary has the same power as him, so she warns him not to tell Ray what he saw. HanKook leaves shocked and does not understand anything of what is happening. The next day, when Ray wakes up, he sees that the house is destroyed. So Mary justifies what happened and tells him that HanKook sneezed a lot. At this time, HanKook arrives, and Mary tells him that he can't sneeze at home again. At this time, a phone call comes to Ray, and HanKook sticks a thorn into Mary's body, but the thorn breaks. He hits her on the head with a stick while she does not feel it, and threatens her that if she does not tell him the truth, he will tell Ray her secret. At this time, we see the gang leader Reed, who is in prison with 2 criminals, and he agrees with them to take revenge on HanKook. After a few hours, Mary goes to meet HanKook and tells him that they are the 2 of the same sex. There is no one else like them, and they have been living for 1,000 years, and they are 3 brothers. But he does not believe her words and that she is lying, and he decides to go Ray and tell him his wife's secret, and they arrive in the city and beat each other and destroy everything around them. A very strong storm because of their strength gathered together. At that time, HanKook is hit by a giant trailer, and at the same time, Ray is in his office and notices the storm around him. HanKook apologizes to Mary for everything he did, even though he doesn't remember anything. He sees them and discovers the truth about his wife. Then they meet at the house, and Mary explains to Ray the situation and tells him that she and HanKook were married for thousands of years, but they separated. She tells him that she was always trying to stay away from him, but by the nature of their gender, no matter how far they are, they bring them closer together. HanKook leaves a note and goes to buy alcohol from the market. There, he sees on the news that Reed managed to escape from prison, and the owner of the shop consults him that he is in danger, so he understands that there is a criminal near him threatening him with a weapon. HanKook intervenes and eliminates him, but he notices that he was shot and that he is bleeding. And he is surprised because it is the first time he has been wounded. And then he was taken to the hospital after he lost consciousness there. Mary visits him and reassures him, telling him that this happened to him because they got close to each other, and that their strength decreases. They become normal like humans when they are next to each other. It happens. And she explains to him every wound in his body, how he got it, and tells him that they were subjected to a strong attack that caused him a fracture in his skull. And this made him lose his memory. That's why she decided to stay away to save his life. Ray and his son arrive, and when he sees them, he leaves them alone. Suddenly, Red and his gang appear in the hospital, and they reach HanKook's room. And when they try to hit him with fire and kill him, Ray stands in front of them and gets shot, so HanKook gets the gang with the bed and keeps Mary away from them. And he starts hitting them one by one and throws them out of the window and asks Mary and Ray to be hiding away with the child. HanKook and Mary are in pain because they are close to each other. And then Reed comes and shoots him from behind. Suddenly Ray comes and cuts off his second hand and saves HanKook, so HanKook gets up and tries to get away from the hospital and jumps out of the window and flies with difficulty. He tries to get away as much as possible until Mary's condition improves and she calms down. Mary can regain her strength again, and he also has his strength again. We see Mary with Ray and the child while they are in the garden. Then HanKook calls him to check on them. And we know that he lives in another city far from them, helping people and protecting them. Then he is a surprise worker and asks him to look at the moon. And when he looks at the moon, he sees the heart logo of the charitable deed engraved on it. HanKook thanks him for what he did with him and that he will idea the world for the better with his idea. Here the movie ends. We hope you like it, and who wants to follow us to watch the rest of the movies? Subscribe and hit the bell.